What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be doing another podcast, and today we'll be actually joined by FireGuyGaming. How are you doing, man?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks for asking. Today we're going to be touching on a little bit of Battlefront related stuff, and also touching on just some YouTube related stuff, as well as some, I guess, just Star Wars in general stuff. So we'll get stuck right into it. So the first question I've got on the list is, and this is this is probably a bit of a touchy subject as of right now. What is your opinion on the current state of the game? Because obviously it's been a little bit rough the last few days.
Yeah, honestly, right now it's horrible. Like, I've had to stop streaming it for a bit and been struggling to make videos on it just because obviously I think that transmission in August got a lot of people hyped. I think it was overhyped in a way, but it seemed like they were going in the right direction, and then the game's just been filtered with so many new bugs, and it's like a never-ending sequence really at this point. Just bugs after bugs. I doubt it's ever going to properly get fixed, and I think it actually stops the game from reaching its full potential, to be honest.
I agree with that. I think it's been, the game's been nearly out for 2 years now, and it kind of, for the first, I would say like the first year, or even until recently, it kind of felt like they could fix the bugs. Like, we kind of thought, if they take a bit of time, they can get rid of the bugs, but at this point it almost seems like there's always going to be issues. Like, even if let's just say they dedicated 2 months to just fixing the bugs, I just don't think it's ever going to be fixed. So it's pretty frustrating, but
yeah, I feel like it's kind of, a lot of people I've been seeing have been blaming the Frostbite engine and everything, and I think if you look into it, they've probably got a point now. It's like, I think it's unavoidable really. These bugs just seem to be caused by what they seem to be working with, and it's like, it does look in a few ways that this game wasn't really designed for this engine, with lightsaber combat especially.
Yeah, I agree. I remember they did a I don't know who it was. It might have actually been the Battlefield team, or no, it was the Anthem team. They did an article, like, this was probably the start of the year or something, and they actually just talked about the Frostbite engine and said how difficult it is to work with, and it kind of makes you think, is it worth using the Frostbite engine, or should they rethink the way the engine works or something? Because it's not just this game. I know Battlefield has a lot of bugs as well. Anthem, we all know how Anthem went, so it almost seems like it's just the engine itself is it looks beautiful, it plays pretty well when it's working, but it just doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't seem to work how they want it to work.
Yeah, I think they go with it for the realistic effect, obviously, but at the cost of what? I mean, I said a few days ago, if they're advertising all these pre-order bonuses and everything, why not advertise at this point that there's going to be bugs in the game, because they're such a huge part of it. You can't play this game without encountering one. So yeah. Yeah,
it's pretty shocking. And I think, was it you, or was it, I don't know if it was you or Aussie Jedi, but one of you guys said something on Twitter that it was a comment from one of your comment sections saying about, I've never had any of these bugs.
Oh, that was me.
I read that and I was like, how? If you played the game once or something, because it's every session. There's very rarely a session where you can have no bugs, and even, there's times when you'll have a session and it's pretty decent, but there's always just something. You'll get stuck on something in the terrain, or just little things like that. So maybe it's worth them, I don't know, trying to fix the engine itself, moving forward. Obviously that's not going to affect this game. I think it's kind of too late, but say moving on to, I think the next gen consoles are coming out next year or the year after, maybe they should just try and figure out the actual engine itself before that, because if it just stays like this, that it's never going to get any better, because they'll release, I don't think they will, but let's say they released Battlefront 3, it's just going to be the same thing. It's just going to have bugs after bugs. So maybe you're right. Maybe it's the engine itself that's a little bit of an issue.
Well, I was kind of thinking about that comment you brought up that I tweeted out, and something like, for example, the hitboxes, they're kind of more broken now than they've ever been, but there's points where you'll maybe be jumping in air and you get killed, And obviously that shouldn't happen, but I think because things like this have been a problem for such a long time, maybe people don't think they're experiencing bugs because it's just, we expect these things at this point. I expect to be taken out mid-air when nobody's near me. I expect the combat to be broken, to be honest, but I don't know, really.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point. I think there's a lot of things, like, maybe that's not classified as a bug, really. Maybe that's just, you know, like, more a fault in the design of the game, you know, like the saber registration. I wouldn't really say it is a bug, it's just like broken essentially. So you could be right, maybe people don't know that they're experiencing bugs, but I would consider that a bug. Like if you jump in the air and you're nowhere near an enemy and they kill you, like that's obviously not meant to happen. So
yeah,
I don't know, I think I don't know, maybe some people haven't played the game as much and maybe they've gotten really lucky, I don't know, but for me it's like, and I'm a pretty positive person about this game. I still love it. I still play it, you know, every week. But it's every session. There's not a session I can remember for the last like year that I haven't had a single bug.
Yeah, I heard that you said you even had to take like a 3-week break, was it, from the game?
Yeah, I just I got to the point where I was like, I'm sure you know what this is like, and we could probably touch on this more as well later in the podcast. But it's like, you get to the point where you have to get footage. So we essentially, you know, us YouTubers, we have to play the game if we want to make videos, and it gets to the point where like you got to get footage, but you just don't want to, and then essentially you can't do your job. So
yeah, I've experienced.
It got to the point where I was like, it got to the point where I was just like, I need to just have a bit of time off, and it really did work actually. Even with the bugs, like the game's probably right now in its one of its worst states, and I've been loving it. Like the last couple of days, I've been having a lot of fun. So I think it did work, but I mean that it doesn't really excuse all the issues, does it?
Yeah, it's in a mess, but I'm just hoping that something can be done about it. I doubt the game's ever going to be bug free, but just something that's better than the state of it right now, because this is the worst I think since launch, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think if they can just get it to, you know, get it to probably be the best that it's ever been, I would say like maybe January was maybe the best month. There was not as many bugs and a lot of the characters got, you know, decent buffs and stuff, and I feel like January is probably the best. If I can just get it back to what it was, which it was still, you know, there was still bugs, but getting it to that stage would be so much better than what it's at, because it does it does get very, very frustrating. And like I said, for us that, and I mean it's the same for everyone, but for us guys that we essentially have to play the game, it just leads to burnout essentially.
Yeah, I think January as well, like you said. When I think of January for this game, I think of Dooku coming into it, and a lot of people, including myself, thought he was going to be buggy, and he turned out to be probably the best new hero.
Yeah.
In terms of how he works, like I was worried about that lightning stun ability, but that's probably the best stun in the game in terms of how it works. So I think January is a good state to go back to.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on to the next question. And this is kind of, I guess it's the same sort of subject, but what do you think is the most sort of important area of the game that they need to change if they are going to, you know, bring it back to where it was, I guess, or where it should be?
Well, I think minus the bugs, because obviously we've covered that. I think for this game, the biggest aspect really is, I know I see people talking about weapons and private matches, which I think are number 2 and 3, but it's maps overall. If you look at things really, when you look at the bigger game modes, Galactic Assault has had Crate, which I'm going to count Crate as a launch map because it basically was just a month later.
It technically was.
Yeah, we've had like Geonosis, which I admit Geonosis has grown on me quite a bit. I really didn't like it at launch, but I think it's a great map now. But Galactic Assault needs some variety, and even Capital Supremacy, it's great and everything, but it's the same maps apart from obviously the Pipeline Junction West, I believe it's called, for Geonosis, and then obviously we know Felucia isn't coming to GA, at least not yet. So the variety for me, Heroes vs Villains has got a great variety of maps, but GA is severely lacking, and with that being the mode as well that supports all 3 eras, like the big mode, it needs switching up.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the thing with maps is it's like, or the only issue I would say with maps is that they're not it's only once per rotation. But I do agree that it's like it just bring. I remember when Geonosis was added, it was so like refreshing, and I was kind of the same. I really liked the look and the feel of it, but I wasn't too happy with the layout and how it played. I didn't really dislike it, but I was just kind of like, it was a bit like meh. I wasn't in love with it, but even still, it refreshed the game so much, and it was just something new. So I would actually agree with that. The maps are probably, obviously other than bugs, like we said, maps are probably up there with what they need to do the most. And like you said, with Felucia, if they, like, I'm okay if they don't add it instantly, but if they don't add that eventually, like, I'm going to be pretty mad at that. That's a massive failure, in my opinion, to add a completely new map that everyone loves. Like, I don't know anyone that hears the name Felucia and doesn't think, oh, that's going to be awesome in this game, and then just not add it to the main. Like, I know that they're trying to push Capital Supremacy as the main mode, but it's not, because it's only Clone Wars. So yeah, if they don't add it to GA, I'll be pretty mad. As long as it, could take 6 months, but as long as we get it eventually, then I guess I'll be happy with that.
I mean, like, when we get this episode 9 content, I'm guessing they're going to go back to Galactic Assault for this new world we're getting with it. So I think that, like I said, that'll be Galactic Assault. So obviously then Supremacy is going to take a back seat. So that would be a good time as well to get Felucia in there, because when episode 9 content comes, I doubt many people, well, obviously Supremacy is going to keep its audience, but more people are going to want to play the new map, which I'm probably 99% sure is going to be for GA.
Yeah, I definitely hope it is. I was kind of worried that it's going to be like, and I don't know if this is just the game that's done this to me, but I'm really worried it could just be like, a HVV map and not for GA. I don't think it will, because that, like, they know that would cause a riot, but I don't know.
I think it might have been Ben, I'm not too sure, but one of them said like this could possibly be one of the biggest DLCs that's come to the game. So I know they say things a lot and things don't work out exactly how they've said them, but I doubt they're talking about HVV map.
Yeah, that is true. And I think like you said, sometimes they may hype things up more than what we expect. Like, even the latest CT, they said that was the biggest ever. I don't think it was, but I think when they're talking about biggest update ever, I feel like one of, I don't think they're gonna. I think they may have learned a lesson after the last couple of times, or at least I hope so. Anyway. Moving on to the next question, and this again goes back to the bugs. Do you agree? I've heard this sort of talked about a lot lately. Do you agree that eventually they need to stop with the content and just fix the bugs, like, over making more content? Because forever this game has been, oh, we need more content, especially after Battlefront 2015, which obviously that's the only real downside to it. It didn't have as much content. Lately, it's just seems like they just need to stop and just fix it and then move forward. Would you agree that that's something that they should look into?
Honestly, I thought about it, and I actually recall saying it a few times on stream as well, but I think out of just frustration that I'd rather have a bug fix update. But in reality, if, say, after Felucia they said for October, for example, we're just going to focus on bugs for this month, I don't think I would be happy about it, because it's their own errors that they're having to fix, and content's coming at a cost for people like us. And also, I just wouldn't be excited. I know it would fix the game, but it would be fixing pre-existing content. I think they had their opportunity with July. We all know how bad that month was, and I think they could have prepared something good for July. I don't get the whole argument of they couldn't get anything ready because they were going on their holidays and stuff, but it's like, well, all the content they make for this game, they make it in advance, so something maybe for July they could have fixed it then, but I think the time's gone for putting bugs first at this point. I'd rather just them do both simultaneously.
Yeah, I definitely see that point. The thing is, as well, if they did, let's just say they did a month of just bug fixing, and then it didn't fix the bugs, like we know that happens, that would be, I think that would almost kill the game, honestly, if they took a whole month or even 2 months off making releasing content just to fix it, and then it didn't fix. I think that would just be, that could be the worst possible thing for the game. So it kind of has positives and negatives, I guess. For me personally, if it was guaranteed that it would fix everything, I would gladly give a month or two to it. But yeah, it's not a guarantee. So you actually make a good point there that it might be worth just bringing stuff to the game and just doing their best to fix it, because yeah, if they take a break from content and sort of starve us of the content, and then they don't fix it, it's going to end up worse than what it was, really.
Yeah, I think they've kind of got to go down that route now, because I wouldn't be happy if they just said this month's a bug fix month. Like I said, it's their mistakes. We shouldn't have to suffer because of their mistakes, really.
Yeah,
that's how I see it. So I'm not gonna say like I'd rather have bugs over. Obviously, like I said, I've said it in frustration in streams, but in reality I'd rather have content over bugs, because I would be frustrated if we were just given a month full of bug fixes.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'd like to see a way that I think they could maybe do it is bringing some, doing a month of content that might not bring too many bugs with it. Stuff like skins and, even I guess weapons. I don't think weapons would really add any bugs to the game. Although, yeah, I'd probably said that about other things. Yeah. So, but they could just do like a skin month or something, something like that, and just bring like 10 skins to the game and fix bugs. I think that would be like a nice middle ground, because surely adding skins wouldn't add bugs. But again, we don't really know. But I think like, even with the clone commandos, you wouldn't expect them to be very buggy. I don't think there's much that can sort of bug them out. But at the same time, we just don't know. So if this month is that and bug fixes, and then it all ends up more bugged, then it just seems like it's going to be an endless sort of cycle, I guess. But
yeah, I will have to see where it goes, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Now, speaking of the upcoming content, obviously all the stuff that's been announced so far, from 1 to 10, how excited are you in sort of each category? So, this month, and then the episode 9 stuff and stuff like that.
I think this month, it's... if we're going back to when they announced the 4 heroes last year, I don't think anything can beat that hype. For me, obviously, they all came like at different times, but that was a solid 9 for me. So if we were to realistically go for this month, I'd probably say around a 7. Like, if Felucia was coming to GA, it'd be an 8 definitely, but one mode kind of restricts it. Commandos I'm excited for, definitely, but they look amazing, obviously, but as far as Battlefront mechanics go, they're not too different from what I've seen. But it's definitely a solid month. And then we've got the Luke skin as well, which gets me hyped. But as far as the episode 9 content goes, I can't judge it until I see something. I'm obviously not the biggest fan of the movies, but I don't really judge that when it comes to the games, because Crate's like one of my favourite maps, and Finn's one of my favourite heroes right now. But I'd have to actually see what's coming to the table for the episode 9 content, so I'd say a 7 for this month, but I honestly wouldn't know for the episode 9 stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to judge, and like we said, they say it could be the biggest ever, but then we just don't know, so it's pretty hard to judge. I guess, like, for me, if it is a new GA map, I'll probably be like, yeah, maybe at a 7 or an 8, and like, reinforcements are cool. I'm always down for more, but they're not something I really use that much, other than when they drop. Obviously, I'll be playing the commandos a lot when they drop, but in 6 months I'll probably barely play them, so I'm probably about the same. Probably like I'd say a 7 for this month, and then for the episode 9 I'm probably about a 7, but it's like you said, it's pretty hard to judge because we sort of don't know where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, something I forgot actually was the reinforcement skins, which I think is a great idea, because something that does kind of put me off reinforcements in a way. I know it's kind of minor, but the fact that they don't have skins or they don't have emotes and stuff like that, I do like that extra customization for them. And victory poses as well. I know a lot of us made fun of victory poses when we got given those as content, but for troopers that don't really have them, anything like that for reinforcements, because they've got nothing really, I'm always down for it.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean they give us a month of victory poses again.
Yeah, I think when they, if they're gonna add it, it needs to be like a complimentary edition, not the main, the main focus of the month, because that was pretty. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. It needs to be complimentary. If I'm fine with things like anything like that, I'm fine with it being complimentary, but not the main attraction. Yeah, exactly. Now, the last question relating to Battlefront. How much longer do you honestly think Battlefront 2 has left in it?
Every time I think we had, I mean, throughout like 2018, the whole year was me and so many other people just saying the game is dead, which I never wanted to believe, but it was at the time. They brought it back, and every time I think things are slowing down, they come up with like droidicas and now commandos. So I could say, December might be it, but there might be more. They're going down the route with this game that I really wanted them to, but I never thought it would happen, which is not making a Battlefront 3 and instead just keep adding to this game. But I think the main thing is they need to be making money off this game, and right now I'm not too sure where that money's coming from, because the average person has got enough for all the skins, and I suppose if they've not all the good skins they can afford, I don't understand where they're getting their money from, because it's definitely not cosmetics. So I want to believe, if it was up to me, I'd want it to be still thriving like this time next year, but I really couldn't put a finger on it right now.
Yeah, it's hard to judge. After the last CT, the CT itself was like okay, but I was actually a little bit disappointed, because it seemed to me, and I kind of have changed my mind since then, but it seemed like that was it. They kind of just didn't talk about next year, and that's all I wanted from the CT, was just to even just hint at them going into next year, and they didn't say anything. So initially I thought, oh, this is it, like this month is, not this month, but this year is the end. But then after those interviews at Gamescom, I remember watching Bombastic, and I watched some of Cinematic Capture's interviews with Dennis, and like, I don't know, he makes it sound like they're going to be going for at least another year. So like, it's so hard to tell. I honestly have no idea. Kind of the same as you. I would like it to go for 2 or 3 more years if we could get it to, but obviously that's sort of stretching. But if we can just get another year out of it, I'll be stoked with that. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know, like you said, where's the money coming from? How are they paying? Obviously EA has enough money, but like they need to make money off the game to keep paying the devs. So I don't know, unless they've got some plan for some way to make more money without it being, pay to win or controversial or whatever, then I just don't see how they're going to make any money, which to me hints that it will end sooner. But then at the same time, maybe, they haven't been making money probably this whole year, so maybe they're just going, let's just make this game to where it should be, not worry about the money, and just try and get like the public image better, I guess. So I don't know, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, I suppose, like, what concerns me is there's just something here that's too good to be true, because this is EA in charge, and we know how they are with their microtransactions and everything, and it's just beyond me as to why they'd keep supporting a game like this. And I'm not complaining. The fact that Battlefront 2 is still getting support, it amazes me, to be honest, and I've got nothing against that. But I suppose not my problem, but what I'm curious about is why. Why have they chosen to do this, especially after the whole world, basically, the whole gaming world turned on the game? For what reason have they decided to do this? Like you said, they're definitely, where they're getting their money from right now is kind of a mystery. I'd just like to know the answers behind it all. It is just kind of a huge mystery right now how this game continues to get content, and very, outstanding content at that as well.
Yeah, I said it on the last podcast actually with Ozzy and he was actually the one that I think brought up the idea, but he made a point that I think like it seems like they're just doing this to right their wrongs, which is like, I don't know, that's kind of doesn't seem like EA to me, but it does seem like they're doing that. They kind of seem like they don't care about money. If they did care about money, they'd be releasing skins every month and doing all that, because essentially skins are the only way they can make money. Like there's no other than sales, but obviously the game costs like $7, so surely they're not making money there. But it almost seems like they are just like not caring about the money and just going, let's just make the game how it should have been, get everyone to be happy and on the same page, and then after the game has gotten to the point it should be, maybe then they'll look into doing another one or whatever it is. But it's hard to tell. It's just hard to tell how they're still going without the money. I just don't understand it.
I think what you said there about what Ozzy brought up, when it comes to maybe they're trying to right their wrongs, that's a good argument, to be honest, because if you look at, for example, I think FIFA is the biggest example of a game that's built on pay to win, and they continue to push that out despite certain countries trying to ban it and everything like that. So in the bigger picture, they've not learnt their lesson. They know they can get away with things like that in communities like the FIFA community, where it was just built on pay to win. But they know with this game and this community, they can't do that. So that's another thing that just kind of confuses me. It's like they know which fans they can take advantage of and which they can't now, thanks to the backlash.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's probably a good thing that not just the Battlefront community, but almost the whole gaming community kind of stood up against this game, because we could be in a situation where it's just like FIFA, because that game has been, like, I used to play FIFA since I don't know when, like FIFA 08, and it's always, since they introduced Ultimate Team, it's always had the buying your packs and whatever. So, and they don't seem like they even slightly care about that. They just do it every year. No one ever, even the FIFA fan base doesn't even care. Like they just eat it up every year. So I guess we are pretty lucky that the game isn't in that state.
Yeah, I mean, like my channel when I first started it was FIFA, and it was just, I think that's what mainly put me off the game. It was so dependent on money, and it's not something I'm against as much as other people when it comes to pay to win. Obviously I don't like it, but I don't care to the extent that some do. But with FIFA, it was so built on pay to win that even I just couldn't bother with it anymore. And that probably would have been the same with Battlefront if they hadn't have had the backlash at the start and things wouldn't have changed.
Yeah, exactly. So now moving on to some more, I guess, YouTube related stuff. How long have you actually been doing YouTube? You mentioned that you started off with sort of FIFA. How long ago was that?
Well, it was FIFA and Minecraft as well. It wasn't, I think the thing here is some people plan to do YouTube and they have it all set out and everything, but that was never it with me. So it was I think it was the end of 2013, and a few of my friends were doing it, and they talked me into it because I didn't even want to. And we were just recording like silly videos, to be honest, like on our phones and everything. There was nothing to it. I think that's like the main thing throughout like my journey from then to now, is that none of this was really planned. Some people come on here and they have it all planned out. Every bit of it is just kind of come as it has, to be honest. There's been no planning behind it.
Yeah. Now, what's your favourite aspect of having the channel? Is that kind of it, just just winging it, or is it sort of something relating to the community, or just enjoying the like content creation process? What's your favourite sort of part of having the channel?
I think honestly, it's one of the main kind of problems I've had is that I love Star Wars, but nobody I've ever really. I mean, I think when I was younger, a few of my friends liked it, but as we've all gotten older, nobody's really into Star Wars. So when it comes to Star Wars, I've not really had anyone to talk about it. All my friends are into different things. So what was kind of amazing at first was when my streams first started getting popular, and people were coming in there and I had someone to talk to Star Wars about, because that was just completely new to me. So that kept me into it. And then when I realised I was kind of gaining a bit of an audience and just the whole interaction, that's what mainly kept me going. If there was never those first few people who started subscribing and everything like that, I wouldn't have kept it up, because it was just the whole talking to different people who actually, I suppose, understood what I was talking about when it came to like Star Wars and pretty much Battlefront and all that. Because it's not, I wouldn't say it is something that when it comes to real life, I know anyone really who's into like Star Wars or Battlefront.
Yeah, that's actually very similar to myself. Actually, I've only got really like, I would say one of my real life friends, maybe two, like Star Wars, and the rest, they're all like, a lot of my friends are more, you know, we're all kind of sporty. We like our sport, so they're not really into the Star Wars stuff. I'm more of a nerd than most of my real life friends. So they all, you know, I'll tell them, oh, I'm going to see the new Star Wars, and they're like, oh, that's stupid, blah blah blah. But the same thing when I started this, it was just awesome to be able to have, like, you know, you got a stream full of 50 people that are all talking about Star Wars. It was definitely pretty different for me, because like I said, I've only probably got like 2 people that would talk about it, because the rest of them, especially just in Australia, I just don't think, it's not unpopular here, but it's definitely not, I wouldn't say it's as big as the States. So it's like, it's just kind of how it is down here. Not many people follow it, but other than my dad and probably 2 friends, I never had really anyone to talk about it to. So it's the same as you, like, just the streams and just making videos in general. It was definitely pretty cool to have some like-minded people, I guess.
Yeah, it's honestly like one of the greatest things to have as a backup to anything, because even when, I suppose, the point that I'm at now and also you're at, where say it's a really quiet day on your channel and so as the game's not doing too well and there's not that many people around, you can still have up to, you know, 40 plus really, like, people, and it may not seem like a lot watching your stream at that time if the game's like I said, having a bad day or something. But in reality, we've gone from having nobody really to talk about this to, and then you can have like 40 on a bad day and then hundreds plus on a good day, all into this same thing. And that's, when I think about that, when I actually break it down in my head, that just keeps me going with this, because I really enjoy that.
Yeah, it's definitely I think the community sort of feeling to having a channel. I actually never thought that would be the case, because when I used to watch, before I started, like, this is, 5 years ago or whatever, I'd just be watching channels. I was never the type I never commented on videos, I never got involved with the YouTuber themselves. I just would watch their videos and then click the next one, you know what I mean? I never realised there was like a community feeling to it. And then, when I started my own channel and that started happening, I was like, wow, it's actually pretty amazing that there's, thousands of people that are all have the same interests, that are, just getting together and having fun. So that's definitely my favourite part of it as well. Now, what are your favourite types of videos to make? Obviously, there's plenty of different types to make.
Definitely right now, it's like the huge kind of concepts I do. So I've got, these aren't things that come out every week. These take a while. So I've got the first one, which was the Order 66 concept video that went live like February last year. And then the Geonosis video, Geonosis Galactic Assault video, which went live July last year. And then I took like a big break until the Felucia one, which I did in August this year, so like a month ago. And I obviously, like, there was a big gap between the Geonosis and the Felucia one. But I just love doing those big concepts of how a game mode or how a Galactic Assault level could work. And I think there as well, a lot of people in the community have like their specific series that they kind of have, and it's what they're known for. And I'd say that's my series. That's the one thing I suppose I've got that nobody else has got right now, and I really enjoy doing those.
Yeah, and they definitely, that Felucia one had that, like, that was so in depth. I was like really impressed with how much I could tell how much thought you put into it. It wasn't like you just sat there for a day and made a video. It was like you could tell how long you were making that. So that was kind of what I was guessing, the concept stuff, because I can tell how much effort you put into those.
Yeah, admittedly as well, like I never do those ones on my own, so I get people to help with the scripts, I get people to help with the concepts of the different heroes and reinforcements, so that's something else I like about doing those videos, because it always means getting more people involved and it's not just me on my own making something, so it always makes them feel that bit bigger.
That is a good point. Now, obviously, your channel, and honestly, I don't really... I mean, I can, to a degree, I can see why, but I don't agree with it. A lot of people see you as like a negative YouTuber, and I just see you as honest, which is... that's just how it is, but... obviously, there's a lot of... I wouldn't say a lot, like, it's not like you hate it or anything, but there's probably more negativity around your channel than someone like mine, but even though I don't agree with the negativity, how do you deal with that sort of, you know, I see all the time people on Twitter and in your comment section just like having a go at you about just saying your opinion, and it's I just don't know how you can deal with all that.
Really, there's like so many different phases of it that I've gone through. So at first, I remember like when I first started being, I suppose, a bit controversial. Like, it's honesty really, but people don't see it that way, so it comes across as controversial. And at first people were saying, does it get to you? And I'd obviously say no, but when it is new to you, anybody like myself, you'll try and deny it, but it does get to you at first, and then you kind of get to a stage where you kind of start reacting to people, so they'll start commenting and you give it them back. But I think I'm at like the final stage of it now, where I've been like this for like a few months now, where I just don't really care at this point, because the positivity outweighs it, definitely, but the negativity is there, but it's nothing to do with, you know, which one outweighs the other. I think I've just kind of got to the point where I know it's going to happen. If I see something going against me now, there's little to no enthusiasm from me as in to get into a heated debate with them about it, or even care to that degree. I'll see like a comment, like if I'd seen a comment saying clickbait or someone going against my opinion maybe 2 years ago, something like that, it would have got to me really, but now I kind of see it and I'll have forgotten about it a minute later. I think you just get used to it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think like my channel, I don't even really put my opinion out there. Most of my stuff is just like tips and stuff like that, so I don't really get much hate, although I do still get some, as everyone does. But I agree, the first, like, you know, when you first start out, it's like it's always really positive, and then you might get like one comment that's just like the slightest bit mean, and you kind of like, you pretend that it doesn't get to you, but it sometimes does. And yeah, when you actually think about it, like now I'm at the point where I'm kind of the same as you, and I'm sure it'll probably, you know, if I ever got in, you know, some kind of controversy or whatever, and it, you know, there's a big wave of hate or something, I'm sure it would probably hit me again. But at the point I'm at now, it's like the amount of, you know, negative comments I get, I just don't even care. So I feel like I'm at the same stage as you. But definitely, like you said early on, it's it can get to you, and it's when you think about it, it doesn't make sense why it does get to you, because it shouldn't. It's just some random person on the internet that you've never met saying something like, oh, this is clickbait or something, but for some reason it definitely does. But like you said, you just I think that's just part of having a channel. You just kind of have to get used to it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like, for example, last year when I was really kind of, once again, I'd say honesty, but people say it's negative and controversial, but last year I was making a lot of those videos because I wasn't happy with the game. A lot of people weren't either, and people were going for me, and it's not getting to me to the point where, you know, it's putting me off YouTube or anything, but obviously you think about it, it plays on your mind a bit. But then a similar thing happened a few weeks ago with the Clone Commandos. I've obviously had other situations since then. It's kind of been the same, where when the Clone Commando CT dropped, I just thought it was overhyped, and people read into my thoughts wrong. They failed to kind of recognise that I rated the CT a 7 out of 10 in the video. They just went for the negative part, and everybody was going for me. I think the video's got hundreds of dislikes, but my reaction now my reaction now was just so different. I was like going away the next day as well, so I had to focus on that, Whereas if this was a year ago, I would have been thinking about it, but this time round, I loaded the video, came to refresh it a few hours later, saw the comments, honestly stayed on it for about a minute and just got on with my day again. I'm just at the point now where I just can't seem to really invest myself in it.
Yeah. Is there any, like, I'm sure there's probably a lot of people watching this who may have smaller channels and they're just starting out and stuff like that. Is there anything that you would, like, attribute to that sort of change happening, or is it just something that you think happens?
It's natural, and it's also down to like who you are as well. So if you can, I've always been someone who's good at dealing with kind of people. I've always, had controversial opinions with lots of things in my life, so I'm used to people challenging my opinions and going for me in that type of way. Just never the amount of people that do when it comes to YouTube, because it's like hundreds of people doing it and everything, but you do just get used to it. It's easier said than done, and for a few months you may be thinking like there's no change and it's all still getting to me, but it will just naturally get to a point where you don't care anymore.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's I think you can there's probably some things you can do to try and get better at it, but like you said, I think it just it's almost just like experience. Once you get enough of it, it's like you just kind of realize, it kind of like clicks in your brain, like, oh, actually, like, these comments don't matter. Like, you just kind of you just realize that everyone gets it. Even you could find the most positive channel on all of YouTube, like the happiest person alive, and they would get hate. So it's just, I think you just eventually go, it's gonna happen. I need to just move on, and that's kind of what I did. And now it's every now and then there'll be a comment that might slightly get to you for like a couple of minutes, and then you're just like, actually, like, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think something else though is there is a reverse effect as well, where the same happens with the positive comments as well. You get so many of them that when you start getting your first positive comments, they mean so much to you, but you get so many of them coming through that even they can start to feel the same, where there's like so much negativity, so you start not to care. And when there's like so many people complimenting your videos as well, I'm not saying you start not caring about it, but it becomes more of just a casual thing that you expect to see. So a lot of things do develop in time. So when you first start a channel, you'll kind of appreciate every nice comment, and every bad comment will get to you. But eventually it does get to the point where you kind of just expect both to come at you.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually a good point about the positive stuff. It's almost like, I notice it a lot with, like, say, donations on streams and stuff. When, the first ever donation you get, you're like so super grateful, and you still feel that today. Like, if I get $1 donation, I'm still like super grateful to the person, but you kind of become blunt to it, I guess, and you might have used to say like a whole minute of thank you, and then on a stream, if you get a donation now, you kind of just like, it kind of comes across as rude. I almost feel like sometimes I feel bad about it, but it's just, I don't know, that's just how it goes. You might just say a small thank you for the donation, and then afterwards I kind of think like, oh yeah, like I probably sounded rude, but yeah, you're getting nice comments in your chat all day, you're getting super chats all day, and it's like you almost become blunt to that as well. So I think it is just happens over time. You almost become blunt to the positive and the negative, like you said.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, definitely.
Now moving on to the last question relating to the YouTube stuff. What are your goals for the future of the channel and the next couple of years?
Right, there's like a big difference between how I was thinking as early as last year and how I'm thinking now. Last year I was just aiming to do more and more videos, but I think there's also, you've got to remember that behind doing like the channel and everything, there's a person there, and that person changes in their life as well. So what I've got to do now is balance my real life goals and my YouTube goals. I think the main job is to kind of just keep the channel alive and kind of just see where it goes from there. I'm not exactly aiming for subscribers anymore.
So you're more just sort of like, keeping on doing it for the fun rather than any, specific goals or anything like that.
I think so. It's kind of just a change, I suppose, in my life, whereas last year I had so much more time to do things, and all I was thinking about was how many views can I get on this video and how many subscribers can I get. Honestly, that's how I would think sometimes. And now it's so different. I do think of it more now as what will I enjoy to make, and just honestly kind of keeping my audience there, because I enjoy talking to my audience and it isn't something I'd want to lose by any means. But then again, there's just, I think, I'm like a year older now as well than I was last year, and I'm just thinking forward more as to like the future in general, not just YouTube, and realistically like how long can I keep a Battlefront channel going for as well. So
yeah, exactly.
Right now, as far as goals, it's just keeping my channel going along with everything else in my life.
Yeah, I think that's like a good way to run a channel. Unless you're like, you've got a couple 100,000 subs or something, then obviously you can turn it into a career. But I think for guys like our size, I think that's almost how you should like run a channel, because at the end of the day, it should be for fun, or at least in my opinion, it should be for fun. Unless you are, unless it is your job, or you have massive dreams of being a YouTuber or whatever. If you started it for fun, then I honestly think that's how you should almost always do it, until the point if it does grow big enough, then sure, change your goals. But I think you sort of have the right mindset there of just doing it for fun, because that, I feel like that makes the channel better in a way. You see channels out there who are clearly just doing it for to grow and to try and make money and stuff, and then you see the channels that are having fun and the content is always better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think also it's just like age, because when I first started I was 14, so all I could think about then was being like my favourite YouTubers and having millions of subscribers, and honestly not always thinking realistically in a lot of ways. And when you get to like, obviously it's like 6 years on now, so I'm 20, my mindset's just different. Now what I think about more is the actual interaction and the actual topics in my videos, and not just how quickly can I get to this subscriber mark or how many views can I get. And then there's a lot more in my life as well compared to last year, where I just had so much time for YouTube. This year I suppose I have taken a back seat because I've had to balance it with a lot more as well, and in a lot of senses, like last year it took a front seat, and this year my channel's kind of taken a back seat with other priorities.
Yeah, and that's always the thing too. There's definitely plenty of stuff to, unless, like I said, unless it is your job and it's the only thing you have to do. I think that's something people don't realise about guys around our size and smaller and even bigger as well, is that we have jobs, and we have, like, I'm at uni, we're all doing other things, so it definitely can get pretty tough, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, moving on to sort of the last batch of questions, and this is more just, I guess, more Star Wars questions as well as some Fallen Order stuff. How excited are you? I know you're not the biggest fan of the sequels. How excited are you on a scale of 1 to 10 for Episode 9?
I've been trying, admittedly, like, Palpatine's coming back, and I'd be going against my own word if I said I'm not for that, because I've said since the start of the sequels, Palpatine's the main villain of this saga, he should be there. And while I think this wasn't planned, they've kind of just retconned things because of, whether you like it or whether you don't, the mess The Last Jedi did create in the fandom. They brought Palpatine back, but I do agree with it. I feel like he should have been there throughout the whole of this trilogy, so if they're saying he has been, I like that idea. The Knights of Ren, which we don't know much about them, but I feel like the fact that they're coming in now, and there's this whole rumour of, is Matt Smith going to be in the movie as well? Is he going to play Thrawn, or is he like a possessed Palpatine? And things like this, I'd be lying if I said they don't have me hyped. But then on the other end of the spectrum, there's like all these new characters like Rey, Kylo, Finn, Poe. I don't care about any of them still to this day. So you've got all these amazing things in the movie, obviously the Death Star as well, which I forgot to mention, but then on the other hand I know the focus is going to be on these characters that still I just don't feel anything towards.
I kind of agree with that, in that I really hope they focus on, like, the overall story rather than these new characters. There's none of the characters that I really dislike, but I also don't love them either. They're just kind of there. Like, I don't really care about them that much, but I hope they do focus. Like, I think the movie can do alright if they focus more on the overall story, because there's so much to tie up. There's all the Palpatine stuff. There's obviously the Death Star. What's going to happen with that? Like, is Anakin going to be in it, or Vader? Like, somehow we see his helmet. Is his Force Ghost going to come back? All that kind of stuff. If they focus on that, or not just that stuff, but just the overall story, since this is meant to be tying it all together, rather than focusing on, like, Finn's arc and Poe's arc and stuff like that, then I think it can do alright. But if they focus on the new characters and just try and make it their story, it just won't feel, to me, it just doesn't feel like the Skywalker saga. But hopefully this movie can kind of turn that around a little bit.
I'm really hoping so. I mean, like, I'm a huge fan of the prequels. I love all of them, but I know it's a popular opinion that 1 and 2 aren't great, and while I love them, a lot of people think that way. But then the same people say 3 is amazing, and when it comes to the original trilogy, I'm not the biggest fan of episode 4. I know that's controversial, but it is very slow. But obviously it was like the first movie, so I'm not too against it. But my point is, you can have a bad movie in a trilogy. The only issue with the sequels is that it's the middle movie, it's the connecting piece, and that's a bit dangerous. It would have been alright if 7 was the bad one, or if 9 turned out to be the bad one, but the fact that it's the one in the middle is quite worrying.
Yeah, that's definitely true, because you look at the OT, and obviously Empire would have to be the best, and then even though Attack of the Clones, like, for me personally, I would actually rate Attack of the Clones as the worst, but I still love it. And even though it wasn't that great, what happens in it is, like, very important to the story, and so even though it wasn't that great, it really does lead into the next one well. But this, like, The Last Jedi, kind of, I mean, I don't know, maybe it will lead in well, but it seems like it's just almost a different movie. So, like you said, the fact that it's the middle one is a little bit makes me a little bit nervous. But like you said, the Revenge of the Sith came back, and it was, in my opinion, it's probably the second best. So I don't know, maybe this one can turn it around. I really hope it does, because I think if this does well, and say The Mandalorian does well, and then we've got Kenobi and the Clone Wars, like, we could finally turn back around to where it should be going. But then at the same time, if this one fails, like, Star Wars is going to be in a pretty bad place, I would imagine.
I mean, another point where episode 3 kind of pulled it out of the bag and, was a great movie. I think a lot of people would agree on that. But it had those pre-existing characters of, well, obviously not people like Windu or Padme, or Grievous. Nobody really knew those guys, but it had Obi-Wan, Anakin, Yoda, Palpatine in there. This movie, it's brought back Palpatine because it is damage control, really. I think anyone can see that. But it doesn't have the Obi-Wans and the Anakins leading the story. It's got Rey and it's got Kylo, who, alright, some people love them, we can't deny it, but they're not universally loved like characters like Obi-Wan or Anakin. There is a lot of divide when it comes to these new characters, and that's the whole problem with this trilogy. There's so much divide right now.
Yeah, I personally think, like, even if this movie is amazing, like, I don't think it's going to be received that well, honestly. I just think the sequels is just, it's done its dash, honestly. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I just think even if this is, maybe if it's like the best movie ever made, then it would be different. But if it's even, even up there with some of the best Star Wars movies, I just still think it's going to be, people just have their thoughts on the sequels, and it's most likely, for me personally, I'm more keen for it to be done. And I like the sequel. Like, I'm not, actually, look, lately The Last Jedi has kind of gone down the rankings, but I don't dislike it at all. But, like, I'm more just keen for the sequels to be over with, so we can just, like, move on to some new stuff, because it's just, I don't know, it's just, the last couple of years have just been so bad for Star Wars. And I am keen for the movie for sure, but I'm more excited for it to be done. and just move on to, you know, we've got Mandalorian, we've got the Clone Wars, we've got Kenobi, stuff like that, and then obviously there's movies planned down the line as well. So for me personally, that's, yeah, I'm definitely keen for the movie and keen to see what happens, but it's more just being keen for the sequels to be finished.
Yeah, I think I can relate to that. I mean, I don't like 8. I love 7. Obviously, we don't want to turn this into an episode 8 debate, or we could be here all day, but there was just something about that movie for me, because I love all 6 original movies. I love the spin-offs. I love Clone Wars and Rebels. Pretty much I love everything when it comes to Star Wars. I loved Force Awakens. And then it was just that movie. It was before all the backlash as well. I mean, I suppose there was backlash from day one, but as soon as I came out of that movie, something wasn't right for me. I remember talking to a few of my friends like straight away, who have met like on YouTube and stuff about it, and they were all saying like it's better than episode 7, because we all agreed that that was kind of like the worst one in our opinions. And I remember saying, no, 7 is better than this is definitely the worst one. I was against it from the moment I saw it. It's really kind of done something to me when it comes to like the sequel trilogy, because I've never really known myself not enjoy Star Wars until episode 8.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was actually the same as you. Like, when I first left, it's like tradition, me, my dad and my cousin always go and see them when they, like, you know, opening weekend or whatever. And we went, and like, we all walked out thinking like, what the hell was that? Like, I just was not happy with it. And then I always go back and watch them again, and I don't know what happened, but the second time I watched it, I loved it. And then, I don't know what changed in that viewing, because honestly, I walked out the first time, I was really, like, what happened with Luke, I was really just unsure about that. And even the stuff that I still to this day am okay with, there's so much wrong with that movie that, like, it is hard to look past. So it's kind of been like up and down for me. It was, I wouldn't say I hated it when I walked out, but I was pretty unhappy with it. Then I really liked it, and now I'm kind of like, it's going down again. Like, I just don't, now that I think of stuff that happens, I'm like, wow, that was it was pretty bad. And like, I would objectively say, like, despite me liking it, it's definitely not I would say it's one of the worst in the whole saga. So I don't know, it's something about that kind of throws me off episode 9. And like I said, episode 9 could be amazing, so I don't know, but it feels like it's not the same Star Wars, if that makes sense. It's just like so much is different, and like the first episode 7, that felt like Star Wars, but then this one, just there was just so much wrong and so much different that it just doesn't. I guess I would say I like it as a movie itself, but I just don't really know if I like it as a Star Wars movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like, it's just caused divide, really. I mean, whether you like it or whether you don't, it's caused a big problem, and I don't think we'll really ever get to the bottom of the movie, to be honest, when it comes to like the different opinions, because when you mention that movie, it's always just going to cause a problem with different types of people. I just hope 9 can point us in the right direction, and it can, in some ways, I kind of want it to make me look at The Last Jedi and say to myself like, oh, I understand why that happened now, because I'd really like to come out of episode 9 appreciating episode 8. It does bug me that we're getting the final chapter in the Skywalker saga, and there's that one movie in there that I'm just not into. I really despise my mindset being like that, because this is Star Wars. I don't want to hate it or anything like that. So I do just want to come out of episode 9 thinking, right, this makes me appreciate episode 8 a lot more now.
Yeah, I think I really hope that JJ can. I think they would have planned that a little bit. I think they'll try and, I don't want to say retcon, but they'll try and do a few things that like might tie it together better. And I think I actually do think that'll be the case. I think we might slightly like The Last Jedi better after this, because they may explain a couple of things that were a bit like stupid in the movie. But in saying that, there's also too much in there that, like, I don't know, there's a lot of stuff I don't think they can actually fix. So like you said, I think The Last Jedi is always gonna, like, in 50 years, I reckon we'll still be just talking about how controversial that movie was, and I don't think anyone's going to agree on that, on their opinions.
Yeah, it's crazy, honestly.
Yeah. Now moving on to some of the more like extra stuff coming. Obviously, we got Mandalorian in episode 9 this year, and then next year we have. Well, I don't know if Kenobi's next year, but it's coming up, and then we've got the Clone Wars, and I guess the Cassian show as well. What would you say you're more keen for, this year's stuff or next year's stuff?
There's no topping like the Clone Wars and Kenobi for me. Like, they are the two. Especially Kenobi. I just was in disbelief when Ewan walked out at a Disney Expo. There's nothing that could ever... I mean, I'd say there's nothing that could top that. Clone Wars could. Both of those, like, they're the two things for me, really, that there's no beating them right now.
Yeah, I had a feeling that would be the case, because obviously they're both like I know you're a big fan of the prequels and their prequel related stuff, so I thought that might be the case. I don't think anyone... Well, I'm sure there's some, but I don't think many people are not excited for Kenobi. That was like probably the biggest announcement we could have almost ever gotten, in my opinion. Like, that's just something that for so long we've been just saying, give us Obi-Wan, because he's like the perfect age. So yeah, I would say I'm probably like... It's hard to say because this, the stuff we're getting this year, it's sooner. Like, the Mandalorian's only a few months away and stuff, but overall, I'd probably say I'm keener for next year's stuff.
Yeah, I really hope that the Clone Wars and Kenobi just live up to the expectations. I'm just trying to not even think about things going wrong with them, which is probably a very bad way to think, because with anything else, I prepare myself for failure when it comes to Star Wars now. But with these two, I'm forcing myself not to think that way, which probably is a really bad way to go about things right now. But I'm just so excited for them. I'm still in disbelief about them, like Ewan coming back as Obi-Wan. It's possibly, I mean, like, my 3 favourite Star Wars characters have, everything always changes as regards to my favourites, apart from my top 3, which is Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, Palpatine, and they're all getting some type of show or movie about them right now in Star Wars. So it's a good time for me personally when it comes to like my favourite characters.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think with the Clone Wars, I think we're pretty, like, the attitude you have towards it, I think you're pretty safe to have that, because I think we know that, like, we know it's going to be good. If it's anything like what it was, which it looks like it will be, then I think it'll be decent. As for Kenobi, like you said, I really hope that is good, because there's so much riding on that. If that sucks, like, that's going to be a massive blow to Star Wars. So I'm trying not to think about it until it comes closer, but yeah, it kind of makes me nervous. It's like I'm excited but also nervous that it will be not good. But I don't know, with Ewan playing Obi-Wan, like, I don't think he can really mess it up, to be honest, other than, the story might suck or whatever. But look at the prequels, a lot of people say that they were bad movies, but he was a standout. Like, his performance was just amazing in every scene that he was in. So I think his acting and, like, the way that we see Obi-Wan will be good. I just hope that the story backs it up, because we might get that situation where it's like a shit story with really good acting, which I guess is better than nothing. But I do hope that ends up being...
Let's just hope for the best for them. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah. Now moving on to Fallen Order. Obviously, when that came out, the trailers and stuff came out, you were a little bit skeptical of it. Are you still feeling that way, that you're sort of unsure whether you're excited for it?
With Fallen Order, it's kind of, I'm just not invested. When I see it, I see this average Jedi. There's nothing that sticks out about Cal Kestis, I believe his name is. Like, there's nothing. Obviously, I'm not going to try and judge it too much, and I have held back on criticisms because it is unfair to maybe go at it as much as I was, considering the game's not out yet. But from promotional material, which is really important with anything, because that's what gets us to buy these things in the first place, I see nothing but an average... strikes me as someone who's trying to be a Jedi, who I know he's, you know, a Padawan or whatever, he's not really reached the full rank of Jedi Knight yet, but there's nothing that screams Jedi about this guy to me. I like the second sister, I'm a big fan of the Inquisitors anyway, but I don't think she can carry the whole story for me, but I can't judge it, and like I could be calling it now and it could be amazing, so I doubt I'm gonna pre-order it or even buy the game, because it's just not, I just, there's not that enthusiasm from me at least. But I'll watch maybe some clips online. If I like it, I might end up buying it, but right now I'm just gonna have to see something that's never been done before in order for me to buy it.
Yeah, I think the point you made about the second sister is a good point. That like she looks pretty cool, and I think it'll be, you know, it seems like she could be a cool character, but I don't know if that's, like, I'm pretty excited for the game, but I'm a big villain person. I rate everything on villains. Like, to me, you can have the best story in the world. Look at Marvel. I'm not the biggest Marvel fan, and that's because the villains aren't that great. Whereas with Star Wars, it's like some of the best villains of all time. So I think, and I don't know if it makes sense in, I guess it could make sense in canon, but I think they need to put Vader in this game. Maybe he kills you at the end, like maybe there's a boss fight and you just have to lose it or something, I don't know, but I don't know if I can, you know, like I said, I'm definitely still keen, but I don't know if I'm that excited if the second sister is the main villain, because, I don't know, we just don't know much about her. But if they do have a big, you know, whether it is Vader or just someone, I think that would like really sell me on it, because I'm the biggest Vader fan there is. So like you said, that's a good point. I think it all, to me, like I said, I'm really excited for it. Like, I think the gameplay wasn't anything special to me. It just looked good. It didn't look like, I wasn't like blown away or anything, but I'm definitely still very keen. But you made a good point about the second sister. I don't know if that's enough to like really hook me in. Whereas if we got some Vader tease or something, I'd be sold 100%.
Yeah, I mean, also, like, when this was first announced, I was constantly saying, like, this is the game for me. This just sounds like it's been built for me, because it's a time period and, like, on a subject that really interests me. But when I thought of, like, the main character of this game, I didn't think of this guy who they're promoting. He doesn't seem like Jedi material to me. And once again, like, I could be wrong, he could turn out to be amazing, and I don't really have much to go off, but there is a huge aspect of any game is the promotion. It's probably the biggest aspect, and the promotion and the way this guy is being portrayed, he just doesn't connect with me as a Jedi in any type of way. But hey, I could be wrong on that, and I hope I am wrong. I don't want it to fail, and I really hope, like, I see clips online and I end up buying it. But right now, it's not got my money. I saw some Second Sister merch advertised on Twitter the other day, and that caught my attention. A lot of people thought, like, does that mean I'm buying the game now? But that's not the case. I love the Inquisitors, but I really do want the game to do well. I'm just going to need to see something that really catches my eye.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm like I said, I would probably say, like, I would be, I don't know, an 8 out of 10 keen for it, but nothing so far that I've seen has been mind-blowing. Like, there's nothing really super special about it so far, other than just the fact it's Star Wars. Like, that's always going to have me interested, but the gameplay was alright. It wasn't bad, wasn't amazing either. And the trailers, the same thing. It was like, the trailers are pretty good, nothing special. So you're kind of right about the promotion. I'm sure we'll probably get another trailer. I don't really know, maybe not, but they do need to do a little bit more. They need to release like a really good trailer, I think, because so far the promotion hasn't been anything too special anyway. Like I said, nothing I've seen makes me go, oh, this looks bad, but nothing I've seen has been like, holy shit, this looks absolutely amazing and I have to get it. Even though, yeah, I definitely will be getting it anyway, just because it's Star Wars.
I think what really kind of worried me as well was it's something so minor, but the lightsaber was off. So we all know a lightsaber is white with the outline being the colour, so it should be white with the outline the colour blue. And this lightsaber was full on just blue completely, and they've spent so long working on this lightsaber combat and how many years working on this game, and they didn't get that right. And that does worry me as to, what else could they get wrong here. I hope that's just a tiny slip up, but when I was watching that gameplay reveal, my eyes couldn't move off the lightsaber being incorrect, so maybe if I see some gameplay with that corrected, I know it's a minor detail, but as a big Star Wars fan, if something like that is corrected, then it's going to catch my attention more, because it was just really off-putting. Really,
they actually came out and said, I think it was a couple of weeks after that gameplay reveal, they actually said that they are fixing it. But you do make a good point there, like, what else, that's, to me, that's a pretty simple thing. Like, we all know what a lightsaber looks like.
It's simple, what else big, may they have? Like,
yeah,
it's the main part, really. Is that he's a Jedi? A lightsaber should be one of the key parts to this.
Yeah. And the other, like, what else may they have slipped up on? Because the only reason they would have come out and said that they're changing it is because they saw the backlash. So, like, there's probably a lot of stuff that we haven't seen that might be wrong. Like, that's a pretty...
Yeah.
I never thought about that until right now, but that's a pretty good point that you make, that something so simple, even though, like you said, it's very small, it's not game breaking, but that's a pretty simple thing to make, is a lightsaber. Everyone knows that they're white with the coloured outline, so if they mess that up, then I don't know, that kind of does make me a little bit nervous about other stuff. But at the same time, maybe they looked at that, the criticism, I guess you'd say, from the fans, and when they said that they'll change that, maybe they would have gone, oh shit, like, this is Star Wars, these fans are going to be rabid, so we need to, like, go and fix whatever we can. So I don't know, that's a good point that you make. I never thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, I did hear about them saying they were going to fix it, which is great, and honestly, I do want this. I kind of want this to be a repeat of the Battlefront situation, where everything I kind of say about how the game is going to do gets completely reversed, and it ends up being an amazing game. Like, I don't think it's going to last forever. It could have the best story in the world, 10 out of 10 story, and it wouldn't last more than 3 weeks anyway, because it's a single player game. But that doesn't mean it won't be remembered, whereas the Battlefront campaign, it's kind of forgotten, even though I did like that to an extent. But I do want this to be a game where, although it will get, it will be tossed aside after a few weeks because it's a single player game and everyone will have played the same story eventually, I do want it to be a game that is remembered, and that, the kind of, when it was LucasArts in charge of these things, they've got like so many good games that we can look back to, like Force Unleashed, for example, and there's so much when it comes to that. And I do want this to be the start of maybe some good EA Star Wars games. I think Battlefront's great, obviously, but it's got the bugs. This could be a big turning point, so I hope everything negative I've said about it does get proven wrong.
Yeah, I do hope it's, like you said, it becomes one of those, almost like the Force Unleashed, like a really, just a loved game. It's not going to last long, like you said. It's single player games are always just kind of play them and then you're almost done. Some are a bit different, I guess, but most single player games, you play them and then you might go and play it a couple of years later or whatever. But as long as it is like enjoyed by most people and it gets, mostly good responses, and it looks, we look back at it as a great game, then that's all I can really ask. As long as it's mostly positive, then I'll be happy.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, you said you weren't most likely going to buy it now. If you did end up, let's just say you do see it and it looks really good and you end up buying it, do you think you would make content on it, or is it more the type of game that you would probably just want to keep to yourself and just like play it and experience it?
Well, I've already said, because people have asked will I stream it, and the answer to streaming it is no, because everybody's going to stream the same campaign. I just don't see the point in it, to be honest. I probably won't cover content on it. Single player games they're so different to multiplayer games, especially in 2019. I know we've had some great single player games over the last few years, but they don't have the same lifespan that an online game has. So when I say, this game's going to last like 3 weeks and people say, well, that means it's going to fail and you don't have much faith in it, that's not what I mean at all. No matter how good or bad the story is, it's not going to last like over 3 weeks unless they added DLC to it. I wouldn't, considering they've confirmed that, and I would have expected this anyway, but considering they've confirmed that everybody's going to have the same story, there's no picking or choosing different outcomes because it's got to stay in line with the canon, I doubt I'm going to cover it because everyone's going to have covered the same thing, and I'd rather just go with something like Battlefront, which we know is getting more and more different content where we can have different outcomes and everything because it's multiplayer.
Yeah, that's the only thing so far that has worried me a little bit is the fact that it has to be canon, and I don't know how much, even things like side missions, like I don't know how much wiggle room they have, like in terms of it being anything but anything but linear, I should say. Like, I do hope it's got some side missions and some, you can go around collecting artifacts and stuff like that, but I don't know if they can even do that because, like you said, if everyone has to have the same story because it is going to be canon, then I don't know if they're even able to do that stuff because say you don't, let's just say I play the game and I do everything possible and then you buy the game and you just do the story and you don't do the side missions, like technically you haven't had the same story, which kind of in a way makes your canon experience different to mine. So I don't know if they can do any of that stuff, which that definitely worries me a little bit.
Yeah, we'll just have to see how the game comes out, but I think people just need to bear in mind that this isn't Battlefront, this is a single player game, and the way it's received and the way content is created around this game will be very different, probably within the first few weeks actually. If you make a Fallen Order video, it'll probably blow up in views, but whereas a Battlefront video that can keep happening over a period of months, it won't last very long because once you've played it, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think I've got videos from, 6 months ago that are still getting 500 views a day or something, but I don't think with a single player game that's going to happen because I feel like it'll be pretty popular around launch and then obviously people will still play it for their first time a year from now, but it's not going to be as popular. So that's a good point. I think a lot of people's videos are going to blow up real quick, but then they won't have, even the videos themselves won't have a very long sort of lifespan.
Yep. It's going to be... I'm definitely interested. I think I'm more interested in how the game is going to be received than the actual game itself, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I am too. Like I said, I'm keen for the game, but I think I'm actually more interested in just seeing how it goes and how people take it rather than the actual game itself, because I think this is a big game for Star Wars. I think if this fails, I would imagine EA probably lose the license, although they already may lose it anyway. But this is a pretty pivotal game for EA Star Wars. I think if this fails, that's going to be pretty bad news, I reckon.
Yeah, it's just at this point, I suppose, seeing what happens and where things go from here, to be honest, when it comes to Fallen Order. I hope it succeeds. I don't think there's anything more I can say other than I just hope it succeeds and I hope I'm proven wrong.
Yeah. Well, that is going to do it for all of the questions today. I wanted to say a big thank you for coming on. I know, especially with our time zones and stuff, it was always going to be hard to find the time, so thank you very much for coming on. I will leave a link for anyone who's not subbed to FireGuy already. I will leave a link in the description, so make sure to go and check out his channel. But thank you again for coming on, man, and I'll catch everyone in the next podcast.